Have you ever met someone and, in a heartbeat, decided they were your kind of person? Or definitely not? Maybe it was their warm laugh, a nervous fidget, or the way they held your gaze. In that fleeting moment, your mind scribbles a story about who they are, and it feels so right, like you've known them forever. But what if that story is just a sketch, drawn from a single glance? Welcome to the first stop on our journey through the level 1 to 100 psychology traps, where we'll unravel the primacy effect, the mind's sneaky habit of letting first impressions shape everything that follows. It's a trap as familiar as a handshake, and just as powerful. Picture yourself at a party. Someone new walks in, cracks a clever joke, and you're sold. They're charming, sharp, a keeper. But as the night unfolds, you catch them snapping at a waiter or dodging real conversation. Do you rethink that glowing first take? Often you don't. Your brain clings to the initial spark, brushing off the rest. This is the primacy effect at work, a mental shortcut where the first thing you learn about someone or something, good or bad, colors your entire view. It's not just people either. The opening riff of a song, the first sip of coffee, or a headline's bold claim can hook you, even if what follows tells a different tale. Why does this matter? Because first impressions are the lens through which you see the world. Your friends, your work, even yourself. They're not just fleeting thoughts. They're the foundation of your choices. Understanding this trap is like learning to spot a magician's sleight of hand. You start seeing the trick before it fools you. In this part, we'll dive into why your brain loves first impressions, how they steer you wrong, and how to take back the reins. Your brain isn't trying to trick you. It's trying to keep things simple. Every day, you're bombarded with information, faces, voices, news, choices. To cope, your mind uses shortcuts or heuristics to make quick calls. The primacy effect is one of those shortcuts, rooted in survival. Long ago, a stranger's smile or scowl could signal friend or foe, and hesitating wasn't an option. Your brain evolved to trust that first snapshot, betting it was enough to keep you safe. Today, though, when relationships and decisions are layered and complex, that ancient instinct can misfire. Let's make it real. You're in a job interview, and the interviewer's first question catches you off guard. You stumble, cheeks burning, and their pen scratches a note. You recover, nailing the rest, but that shaky start lingers in their mind. Or maybe you try a new restaurant, and the dazzling decor screams, 5 stars, so you forgive the bland food. These are the primacy effect's fingerprints, quietly tilting your judgments. Psychologists have studied this for years. In 1946, Solomon Asch ran an experiment that's now a classic. He gave people lists of traits about a fictional person. Say, kind, smart, stubborn, dishonest. When positive traits like kind came first, people rated the person warmly. Flip the order, starting with dishonest, and they soured. The first traits set the tone, like a movie's opening scene that shapes how you feel about the whole story. Your brain's memory plays a role too. Early information digs into your long-term memory, while later details often blur. It's why you recall a stranger's smile more vividly than their parting words. There's an emotional angle too. First impressions spark a feeling, excitement, unease, trust, that sticks. Your amygdala, the brain's emotional hub, flares when you meet someone new, tying that moment to a gut reaction. A bad first date feels like a verdict, even if they were just nervous. A warm handshake feels like a promise, even if it's rehearsed. These emotional imprints make first impressions hard to shake. This trap costs you more than you think. Ever misjudged a quiet coworker as distant, only to find they're kind once you talk? Or stuck with a so-so book because its first chapter hooked you? In relationships, a charming first date can blind you to red flags, while a shy introduction might make you miss a gem. At work, a colleague's early mistake can brand them sloppy, even if they shine later. And it's not just others, you judge yourself this way too. One bad presentation can make you feel like a fraud, ignoring years of wins. The primacy effect spills into bigger arenas. A news headline grabs you, and you form an opinion before reading the story. A sleek ad makes a product feel must-have, even if reviews scream otherwise. These snap judgments add up, shaping how you navigate life. Here's the good news: you can outsmart this trap. It starts with noticing. When you meet someone or try something new, catch that instant judgment forming. Ask, "What's my first take, and why?" Treat it like a rough draft, not a final cut. Instead of labeling someone rude for a curt hello, observe their actions over time. Maybe they're just shy. Try delaying your verdict. Studies show spaced out encounters, like meeting someone multiple times, dilute the primacy effect's power. You see patterns, not just flashes. If you're hiring, dating, or picking a hobby, give it time. A second or third impression often tells a truer story. Another trick: focus on specifics. Instead of thinking, "They're confident," note behaviors, like they spoke clearly and made eye contact. This keeps you curious, not conclusive. It's like zooming in on a photo. You spot details you'd miss at a glance. And don't forget to challenge yourself. If you love someone's vibe, ask, "What if I'm wrong? What doesn't fit?" If you dislike them, hunt for evidence they're better than you thought. It's not about overthinking, it's about fairness. The primacy effect is just the first trap we'll explore, but it's a big one. It's the spark that lights your perceptions, for better or worse. By slowing down and questioning that initial glow, you're not just dodging a misstep, you're sharpening your ability to see clearly. Think of it as tuning an instrument. The notes ring truer, and the music's all yours. Next, we'll tackle the anchoring effect, where the first number or idea you hear, like a price tag or a lowball offer, locks you into a skewed view, even when it's nonsense. For now, linger here. The next time a first impression hits you, pause. It's just the opening line of a much longer poem, and you get to write what comes next. You're browsing a store, and a leather jacket catches your eye. The tag says $500, but a bright red sign screams, "Sale! Now $350. Your heart races. $350 feels like a steal. You grab it, smug about your deal, only to find the same jacket online later for $200. What just happened? You didn't just buy a jacket. You fell into the anchoring effect, a psychological trap where the first number or idea you encounter, like that $500 price tag, warps your sense of what's reasonable. Welcome to part 2 of our level 1 to 100 psychology traps journey, where we'll uncover why your brain clings to these mental anchors and how to slip free. Let's hit closer to home. You're car shopping, and the dealer shows you a sleek SUV for $40,000. Next to it, a sedan at $30,000 feels like a bargain, so you lean toward it, even if it's still over budget. Or maybe you're job hunting, and the first offer is $60,000. You negotiate up to $70,000, feeling victorious, but what if the role's worth $90,000? That initial number anchored you, pulling your expectations down. Anchoring isn't just about money. It's about how the first piece of information you get, whether a price, a fact, or an opinion, shapes everything that follows, often without you noticing. Your brain loves anchors because it hates uncertainty. Every day you face a flood of choices: what to buy, who to trust, what to believe. To keep up, your mind grabs the first solid thing it sees, using it as a reference point. It's like a hiker planting a flag on a foggy trail. It gives you somewhere to start. But here's the catch. that flag might be in the wrong spot. The anchoring effect, studied by psychologists like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, shows how even random or irrelevant numbers can steer you off course. Take a classic experiment. People were asked to guess the percentage of African countries in the UN after spinning a wheel that landed on either 10 or 65. Those who saw 10 guessed around 25%. Those who saw 65 guessed closer to 45%. The wheel's number, purely random, became their mental anchor, skewing their answers. Your brain does this constantly, latching onto the first price, statistic, or suggestion it hears, then adjusting from there. But the adjustment is usually too small, leaving you tethered to a starting point that might be nonsense. Why is this so powerful? It's tied to how your brain thinks. System 1, your fast, intuitive mind, snaps up the anchor and runs with it. System 2, the slower, analytical part, might question it, but it's often too lazy to do the math. So when a store lists a $500 jacket, even if it was never sold at that price, System 1 says, wow, $350 is a deal, and System 2 shrugs. Add in emotions, excitement for a bargain, fear of missing out, and the anchor digs in deeper. Your prefrontal cortex locks onto the reference point, while your amygdala ties it to a feeling, making it feel like truth. Anchoring sneaks into every corner of your life. At a restaurant, a $100 bottle of wine makes the $50 one seem cheap, even if you'd normally balk at $50. In negotiations, the first salary offer sets the tone. Start at $50,000, and $60,000 feels like a win, when you might have gotten $80,000. It's not just numbers. If a friend says, "This movie's amazing," their opinion anchors you, and you might overlook its flaws. Or a news headline claims, "Crime is soaring," and you feel unsafe, even if stats show your town's fine. This trap can cost you. In relationships, anchoring on someone's first kind gesture might make you forgive later slights. In investing, a stock's high initial price can make a dip seem like a deal, even if it's still overvalued. And in big moments, like buying a house, a realtor's $1 million dream home can make an $800,000 fixer-upper feel affordable, even if it's not. The anchor doesn't just nudge you, it can pull you miles off course. You can outsmart this trap though. First, spot the anchor. When a number or idea hits you, ask, is this relevant, or just the first thing I heard? If you're shopping, ignore original prices and check what others charge. Online markets or reviews can ground you. If you're negotiating, come armed with your own number. Studies show starting with a high but fair anchor, like $90,000 in a salary talk, pulls the final deal your way more than accepting their $60,000 start. Another trick, reframe the question. If a $40,000 car feels like a baseline, pause and ask, what do I need from a car? Focus on features, mileage, safety, size, not the dealer's price. This wakes up System 2, letting logic cut through the anchor's pull. If you're unsure, get distance. Sleep on big decisions or ask a friend's take. Outside perspectives loosen the anchor's grip. Practice mental agility. Anchors stick when you're rigid. Train yourself to reset by imagining different starting points. If a house is listed at $1 million, picture it at $500,000. How does that change your view? It's like stretching before a run. Your mind gets limber, ready to dodge traps. And always check the data. Before buying that $350 jacket, a quick search cove showing you its true $200 value. The anchoring effect is a silent puppeteer, tugging your decisions with invisible strings. But now you see it. By questioning first numbers, setting your own benchmarks and leaning on facts, you're not just dodging a trap, You're rewriting the rules of your choices. This is about more than saving a buck. It's about seeing the world clearly, unswayed by the first flag your brain plants. Next, we'll dive into the availability heuristic, where vivid or recent events, like a news story about a shark attack, make you overestimate their likelihood, warping your fears and plans. For now, take a breath. The next time a price, offer, or idea feels like a fact, pause. That anchor's just a starting line, and you get to choose where to run from there. You're watching the evening news, and a story about a carjacking in your city flashes across the screen. The details are raw, grainy security footage, a shaken victim, police lights pulsing. That night, you double-check your car's locks and hesitate to park on the street. For days you feel uneasy, like danger's lurking around every corner. But here's the thing. Your city's crime rate hasn't spiked, and carjackings are rare. So why are you so spooked? You've stumbled into the availability heuristic, a psychological trap where your brain overweights what's vivid or recent, making it seem far more common than it is. Welcome to part 3 of our level 1 to 100 psychology traps journey, where we'll explore why your mind chases these mental mirages and how to anchor yourself in reality. Let's bring it to your life. You read about a friend's cousin who launched a startup and sold it for millions. The stories everywhere, X posts, a podcast interview, your group chat buzzing. Suddenly, quitting your job to chase a business idea feels like a no-brainer. After all, success stories seem to pop up constantly. But the truth? Most startups fail, and the grind is brutal. That cousin's win is just one loud note in a quiet sea of struggle. The availability heuristic makes you judge the world based on what's easy to recall, dramatic, emotional, or fresh, not what's actually likely. Your brain leans on this shortcut because it's a time saver. You're not a supercomputer crunching every step before deciding what's safe or smart. Instead, your mind sifts through memories, grabbing the ones that shine brightest. A plane crash on the news feels like a warning, even though flying's safer than driving. A viral video about a rare illness makes you worry about symptoms you never noticed before. These vivid moments stick, while the mundane, like the thousands of safe flights or healthy days, fade. It's not that you're irrational. Your brain's just wired to prioritize what's loud. Let's paint a picture. You're at a coffee shop, overhearing a couple talk about their friend who got scammed online. The story's gripping, fake emails, drained savings, a cautionary tale. Now you're wary of every link in your inbox, even though scams are less common than the story makes them feel. The availability heuristic is like a spotlight, illuminating what's vivid and leaving the rest in shadow. It's why a single shark attack headline can keep you out of the ocean, despite odds of an attack being 1 in millions. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky named this trap in the 1970s, showing how it skews your sense of probability. In one study, they asked people if there were more words in English starting with or with or ea as the third letter. Most picked starters like run or red because they're easier to recall. But third letter R or words like car or fire are actually more common. The ease of pulling up examples trumped the truth. Your brain does this daily, betting that what's memorable is what's real. Neurologically, this trap is sticky. Your hippocampus stores memories, favoring ones tied to emotion or drama. A car accident, a lottery win, a heated argument. Your amygdala cranks up the intensity, making these moments feel urgent. Meanwhile, boring facts, like the 99.9% of cars that aren't stolen, slip away. Media pours fuel on this fire. News outlets and X feeds thrive on shock, fires, crimes, scandals, because it grabs your eyes. Each story makes rare events feel routine, Like when a week of robbery reports convinces you your neighborhood's a crime scene, even if data says it's safe. This trap reshapes your choices. Say you're picking a vacation spot. A friend's story about a mugging in Paris makes you skip France, even though millions visit safely. Or you're job hunting, and a viral post about toxic tech bosses sours you on an industry, ignoring the many who love their gigs. In relationships, it's subtler, but just as sneaky. If your ex lied, every new partner's late text feels like a red flag, because that betrayal's still vivid. The heuristic doesn't just skew your fears. It tilts your dreams, plans, and trust. It can also mess with your self-image. A harsh critique at work sticks like glue, making you feel incompetent, even if your track record sparkles. Or a single viral fitness post about perfect abs in 30 days makes you think everyone's shredded, so you feel like a slacker. These loud moments drown out the quiet truth, leaving you chasing shadows. You can dodge this trap though. Start by questioning the spotlight. When a vivid story grips you, like a news report or a friend's wild tale, ask, is this common or just memorable? Dig for facts. If you're scared of flying after a crash story, check the stats. Commercial flights have a 99.99% safety rate. If a startup success story tempts you, look up failure rates. About 90% of startups tank. Data cuts through the haze. Another move. Hunt for the hidden. If a coworker's layoff rumor makes you panic, seek the full picture. Company earnings, industry trends, or even a chat with your boss. It's like turning on a flashlight in a dark room. You see what the spotlight missed. X can be a goldmine here. Search posts on layoff myths or startup realities to balance the hype. The goal isn't to dismiss vivid stories but to weigh them against the ordinary. Slowing down helps too. The heuristic loves snap judgments. If a health scare online has you Googling symptoms, pause. Cross-check with a doctor or reputable site before spiraling. Journaling can clear your head. Write down what's driving your worry or choice to spot when a loud memory's taking over. This flips on your system to thinking, the logical side that loves facts over feelings. Finally, mix up your lens. If your feed's all doom, crime, disasters, drama, curate it. Follow accounts that share stats, science, or quiet wins. Talk to people with different takes. A pilot on flight safety, a founder on startup struggles. It's like adding new spices to a dish. The flavor's richer, less one note. Studies show diverse inputs reduce the heuristics pull, helping you see the world's true shape. The availability heuristic is a storyteller, spinning vivid yarns that feel like facts. But you're the editor. By questioning what's loud, seeking what's quiet, and grounding yourself in data, you can see past the mirage. This isn't just about calming fears or making better calls. It's about trusting your mind to cut through the noise and find the signal. Next, we'll tackle the confirmation bias, where your brain cherry-picks evidence to prop up what you already believe, like doubling down on a bad hunch because it feels true. For now, hold this thought. The next time a dramatic story hooks you, take a beat. It's just one frame in a bigger picture, and you get to choose what to zoom in on. You're at a bookstore, flipping through a self-help title that promises to transform your life. Its ideas click with you. Maybe it's about mindfulness, and you've been meditating lately, so every page feels like a nod to your choices. You buy it, glowing, and later find yourself sharing its tips with friends, ignoring the skeptical review you glimpsed online. Why? Because you've stepped into the confirmation bias, a psychological trap where your brain cherry-picks evidence to back what you already believe, tuning out the rest. Welcome to part 4 of our level 1 to 100 psychology traps journey, where we'll explore why your mind builds these cozy echo chambers and how to open the windows. Let's make it personal. You're convinced your new running routine is the ultimate fitness hack. because you saw a viral X post and felt great after a week. You collect stories of runners who swear by it, but when a friend mentions joint pain from overdoing it, you shrug. They probably did it wrong. Or maybe you think your neighbor's standoffish because they didn't wave once, and now every small slight proves you right. Confirmation bias isn't just a habit. It's a filter that shapes your reality, from your habits to your relationships. Your brain loves this trap because it craves comfort. Beliefs are like your mind's furniture. They make you feel at home. When something fits your worldview, it's a warm hug. When it doesn't, it's a jolt, like a chair pulled out from under you. This jolt, called cognitive dissonance, feels so uneasy that your brain scrambles to avoid it, seeking evidence that keeps your world steady. It's why you might defend a bad movie you loved as a kid or stick to a political stance, even when new facts challenge it. Your mind's not out to deceive you. It's protecting your sense of self. Picture a heated dinner with friends. The topic's your favorite team, and you're raving about their star player. Someone mentions a scandal, but you brush it off. That's just media noise. You recall their game-winning shot instead, and your friends nod, caught in the same loop. This is confirmation bias in action, amplifying what aligns with your view and muting what doesn't. It's not just sports, it's every debate, choice, and judgment you make. Psychologists have poked at this trap for years. In a 1960s study, Peter Wasson showed people a number sequence, 2, 4, 6, and asked them to guess the rule. Most tested their hunch, like even numbers, by suggesting fits like 8 or 10, ignoring tests that could disprove it, like 7 or 9. The rule was just increasing numbers, but their need to confirm blinded them. Your brain does this too, chasing proof you're right instead of truth. The prefrontal cortex rewards you with a dopamine hit when you find supporting evidence, while the amygdala bristles at challenges, making dissent feel like a threat. Tech makes this trap stickier. X and other platforms feed you posts that match your likes, creating a bubble where your views feel universal. If you're into eco-living, you'll see endless tips on zero waste, so you think everyone's on board, until you meet someone who doesn't recycle. Studies show these algorithm-driven loops deepen divides, as you're less exposed to other sides. It's like living in a house of mirrors, where every reflection looks like you. This trap hits hard. In relationships, it can blind you. If you think your partner's selfish, you'll notice every time they're late, but miss when they cook dinner. Over time, this skewed lens frays bonds. At work, it's just as bad. If you peg a coworker as lazy, you'll spot their coffee breaks but not their late-night emails, creating unfair tension. And indecisions. Say you're sold on a crypto coin because a friend hyped it. You devour bullish blogs but skip the crash warnings, and when it tanks, you're stunned. Confirmation bias didn't just cost you cash, it stole your clarity. It fuels bigger rifts too. If you lean one way politically, you might dismiss the other side's points as delusional without a glance. Or if you're all in on a diet, you might scoff at critics, even if they're doctors. This isn't about who's right. It's about how the bias builds walls, making it hard to learn or connect. It's like wearing headphones that only play your favorite song. You miss the world's full soundtrack. You can loosen this trap's grip. Start by chasing the counterpoint. If you're sure of something, hunt for evidence against it. Love your new diet? Read its critics or talk to someone who quit. It's not about doubting yourself. It's about testing your ideas like a detective, not a fan. Research shows people who seek disconfirming evidence, like checking both sides of a product review, make sharper choices from jobs to investments. Pause before you dismiss. When a challenge hits, like a friend's opposing view, ask, why do I reject this? Is it the idea, or just that it feels off. Jot down your thoughts to slow your brain's rush to defend. This wakes up your system to thinking, the logical side that cuts through emotion. Try this. In a debate, say, "That's a new angle. Tell me more." It's like cracking a door open. Light spills in and you see more. Mix up your inputs. If your ex feeds one note, follow voices that clash with yours, not to argue but to listen. You don't have to agree, but exposure softens the bias. Studies show varied news diets cut polarization, letting you see gray where you once saw black and white. And embrace intellectual humility. Admit you might be wrong. Ask, what would change my mind? If the answer's nothing, the bias is winning. It's not weakness, it's courage, like stepping off a familiar path to explore a new one. Confirmation bias feels like a warm cocoon, but it's a cage. By seeking dissent, slowing down, and staying humble, you can step into a wider world. This isn't just about better decisions, it's about deeper connections, and a mind that's free to grow, not stuck echoing itself. Next, we'll dive into the sunk cost fallacy, where you keep pouring time, money, or heart into a losing bet, just because you've already invested so much. For now, linger here. The next time you nod at a post that feels so you or swat away a challenge, pause. That echoes just your brain's playlist on repeat. You get to pick the next song. You're halfway through a movie, and its dreadful, cliched plot, wooden acting, the works. Your friend yawns, suggesting you leave, but you hesitate. We've already paid for the tickets, you think, and we're an hour in. Might as well finish it. So you sit through another hour of misery, hoping it gets better. It doesn't. Sound familiar? You've just fallen into the sunk cost fallacy, a psychological trap where you keep investing time, money, or heart into something because you've already put so much in, even when it's clear it's not worth it. Welcome to part 5 of our level 1 to 100 psychology traps journey, where we'll unpack why your brain clings to lost causes and how to let go. Let's bring it closer. You're in a relationship that's been rocky for months. You've spent years together, shared countless memories, and maybe even moved cities for them. But now, the spark's gone, and fights outnumber the good days. Still, you stay, thinking, I've given so much, how can I walk away? Or maybe you're slogging through a degree you hate because you've already paid tuition and spent 2 years on it. The sunk cost fallacy isn't just about bad movies. It's about the moments you keep pouring into a sinking ship, hoping it'll float. Your brain falls for this trap because it hates loss. Losing feels worse than winning feels good. A quirk called loss aversion. Those movie tickets, that relationship, those tuition fees, they're investments you've made, and abandoning them feels like admitting defeat. Your mind tricks you into thinking more effort will salvage things, even when the evidence screams otherwise. It's like holding on to a stock that's crashing because you bought it high, hoping it'll rebound. Spoiler, it often doesn't. Let's paint a scene. You're at a buffet, plate piled high because it's all you can eat. You're full, but you keep eating. I paid $30 for this. I'm getting my money's worth. Your stomach groans, but your brain's stuck on that $30, not the discomfort. This is the sunk cost fallacy in action, pushing you to double down on a choice just because you've committed. It's not about logic. It's about emotion, regret, pride, or fear of wasting what you've given. Psychologists have studied this trap for decades. In a classic 1985 study by Hal Arkus and Catherine Bloomer, people were offered a hypothetical scenario. They'd paid $100 for a ski trip, then found a better one for $50. But the trips overlapped, and they could only go on one. Most stuck with the $100 trip, even though the $50 one was more fun, because they couldn't bear wasting the higher cost. The sunk cost, already spent and unrecoverable, clouded their judgment. Your brain does this too, weighing past investments over future gains. Neurologically, it's a tug of war. Your prefrontal cortex, which plans and decides, wants to justify your past choices to keep your self-image intact. Meanwhile, the amygdala flares with the pain of loss, making it hard to cut ties. When you stick with a bad choice, like that buffet or a failing project, it's not just stubbornness, it's your brain dodging the sting of letting go. Social pressures amplify this. Quitting a job or relationship can feel like failure, especially when others know how much you've invested. This trap wreaks havoc. At work, you might pour hours into a doomed project because you've already spent months on it, wasting time you could have used elsewhere. In business, companies keep funding failing products. Think of Blockbuster clinging to DVD rentals as streaming took over, because they've sunk millions. In your personal life, it's even heavier. Staying in a toxic friendship because you've known them since childhood, or grinding through a hobby you loathe because you bought all the gear, traps you in a cycle of regret. It's not just about time or money, it's about your energy and happiness. The sunk cost fallacy also distorts big decisions. Imagine you're renovating a house. You've spent $50,000, but the contractor's botching it, and it'll take another $50,000 to finish. You keep paying thinking, I can't stop now. But the house might never be what you hoped, and starting fresh elsewhere could have been cheaper. Your past investment blinds you to the future's possibilities, like a gambler chasing losses at a slot machine. You can break free though. Start by naming the trap. When you're tempted to stick with something, another hour of that movie, another year in a bad job, ask, am I here because it's worth it or because I've already invested? Be honest. If the answer's the latter, you're caught. This question flips a switch, letting your system to thinking, the logical side, take the wheel. Next, focus on the future. Some costs are gone. You can't get them back. Ask, what's the best move from here? If you are in a draining relationship, don't dwell on the years you've spent. Think about whether staying makes you happier tomorrow. If you're slugging through a course, consider if finishing aligns with your goals, not how much tuition you've paid. It's like navigating with a map, not a rearview mirror. A powerful trick. Reframe quitting as winning. Walking away from a bad choice isn't failure, it's freedom. Dropping that degree you hate might open doors to a career you love. Leaving the movie early gives you time for a walk or a better show. Studies show people who cut losses, like investors who sell underperforming stocks, often come out ahead because they redirect energy to better bets. Think of it as pruning a tree. Cutting dead branches helps the rest grow stronger. Get perspective. Talk to a friend or mentor who's not invested in your choice. They'll see what you can't, like how that must-finish project is draining you. Or try the 10-10-10 rule. Ask how you'll feel about this decision in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. Sticking through a bad movie might feel fine in 10 minutes, but pointless in 10 months. Staying in a toxic job might sting to quit now, but liberate you in 10 years. This zooms you out, past the emotional pull of sunk costs. The sunk cost fallacy is a chain, binding you to choices that no longer serve you. But you hold the key. By naming the trap, looking forward, and redefining quitting as strength, you can walk away from what's sinking and sail toward what lifts you. This isn't just about saving time or money. It's about reclaiming your freedom to choose what's next, unburdened by what's gone. Next, we'll explore the framing effect, where the way a choice is presented, like 90% success versus 10% failure, sways your decisions even when the facts are the same. For now, take a moment. Next time you're stuck because of what you've already given, pause. That investment's a ghost. It can't hold you unless you let it. You're at the doctor's office, facing a tough call about a surgery. The doctor leans in and says, "This procedure has a 90% success rate." You nod, feeling optimistic, ready to sign up. But imagine they'd said, "There's a 10% chance of failure." Suddenly, you're hesitant, picturing complications. The odds haven't changed. 90% success is 10% failure, but the words hit differently. This is the framing effect, a psychological trap where the way information is presented sways your decisions, even when the facts stay the same. Welcome to part 6 of our level 1 to 100 psychology traps journey, where we'll uncover why your brain falls for these linguistic tricks and how to see through the frame. Let's bring it to your world. You're shopping for yogurt, and one brand boasts 95% fat-free. Sounds healthy, right? But another says 5% fat, and you pause, wondering if it's less wholesome. It's the same product, just described differently. Or maybe you're offered a job. You'll earn $80,000 a year. Sounds exciting, but you'll miss out on $20,000 compared to our top offer. Makes you feel shortchanged. The framing effect doesn't just nudge your choices. It can flip them entirely, from what you buy to how you live. Your brain gets snagged here because it's wired for context. Words aren't just data. They carry emotional weight. Positive frames, like success or fat-free, spark hope, while negative ones, like failure or fat, trigger caution. This isn't a flaw. It's a survival tool. Back when you had to decide whether to hunt or hide, a warning about danger hit harder than a promise of safety. Today, though, when you're navigating ads, news, or advice, this instinct lets others shape your reality. The framing effect is like a painter choosing the colors of your mental picture. Same scene, different mood. Picture yourself at a fundraiser. The host says, "Your $100 donation could save a child's life." You reach for your wallet, inspired. But if they'd said, "Without $100, a child might die," you'd feel pressured, maybe even guilty. Both statements point to the same outcome, but one feels like a choice, the other, a demand. This is framing at work, tweaking your emotions to steer your actions. It's not just charity, it's every pitch, headline, or conversation you encounter. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, who've guided us before, pinned down the framing effect in the 1980s. In a famous study, they asked people to choose between two treatments for a deadly disease. When framed as, "saves 200 out of 600 lives," most picked it. When framed as, 400 out of 600 will die, they hesitated, even though the numbers were identical. The positive frame felt safer. The negative felt riskier. Your brain does this too, reacting to words like win or lose as if they change the math. Neurologically, framing lights up your amygdala, the emotional hub, which colors how your prefrontal cortex weighs options. Positive frames release dopamine, making you feel confident. Negative ones spark stress, urging caution. This is why 90% success feels like a green light, while 10% failure screams, "Stop." Media and marketers know this. A headline like "Stocks soar 10% pulls you in, but stocks still 20% below peak pushes you away. Both can be true, but the frame picks your reaction. This trap reshapes your life. At the grocery store, low-sugar cereal feels like a health win, even if it's packed with artificial sweeteners. At work, a boss framing a project as a chance to shine motivates you, but "don't mess this up" makes you tense, even if the task is the same. In relationships, it's subtler, but just as strong. If your partner says, "we're great 90% of the time," you feel secure. If they say, "We fight 10% of the time," you worry. The framing effect doesn't just sway choices, it shifts how you feel about your world. It's especially sneaky in big decisions. Imagine choosing a retirement plan. One advisor says, "This fund grows 8% annually." Another says, "This fund risks losing 2% in a bad year." Both describe the same fund, but the first feels like a sure bet, the second a gamble. Or in politics, a policy framed as creating jobs wins cheers, while increasing taxes draws boos, even if it's the same plan. These frames don't just inform you, they manipulate you, often without you noticing. You can outsmart this trap. Start by spotting the frame. When you hear a pitch, whether it's a sale, a doctor's advice, or a news story, ask, how are they presenting this, and what's the flip side? If it's 95% fat-free, mentally reframe it as 5% fat and see if your gut shifts. If a job offer is framed as $80,000 a year, ask what's not being said, like industry averages or hidden costs. This pulls the curtain back, letting you see the raw data. Another trick: strip it to numbers. Frames thrive on emotion, so boil things down to facts. For that surgery, 90% success and 10% failure both mean 9 out of 10 patients recover. For the yogurt, 5% fat is 5 grams per 100 grams. Numbers don't carry the same emotional baggage as words, so they free your system to thinking, the logical side, to take charge. If you're unsure, check the math yourself or look up neutral sources, like Consumer Reports or raw stats on XP. Reframe on your terms. If a choice feels scary because it's presented as a loss, like 10% chance of side effects, flip it to a gain, 90% chance of no issues. This evens the emotional playing field. Studies show people who reframe options, like viewing a risky investment as 80% likely to grow instead of 20% chance to lose, make more balanced calls. It's like adjusting the lighting in a room. The same objects look different, but you see them clearer. Get a second angle. Ask someone uninvolved, a friend, a colleague, for their take. They're less swayed by the frame you heard. Or seek out varied perspectives on X, like searching surgery risks, to balance your doctor's pitch. Diversity in input dilutes the framing effect's power, like mixing colors to soften a bold hue. And pause before deciding. Frames rush you, so give yourself time to let the emotional pull fade. The framing effect is a storyteller, dressing up facts in costumes that sway your heart. But you're the director. By spotting the frame, sticking to numbers, and flipping the script, you can choose based on truth, not presentation. This isn't just about smarter decisions. It's about owning your perspective, unswayed by someone else's words. Next, we'll tackle the overconfidence bias, where you overestimate your knowledge or skills, like thinking you're a trivia champ until the questions stump you. For now, hold this. The next time a phrase like save or lose pulls you, pause. It's just a frame, and you get to choose the picture. You're at a trivia night, buzzing with excitement as the host fires off questions. You lean into your team, whispering, "I've got this," certain you know the capital of every obscure country, or the plot of every classic film. The first few answers roll off your tongue, and you're feeling unstoppable, until a question about 18th century composers leaves you blank. You guess wildly, convinced you're close, only to crash and burn. Sound familiar? You've just tripped over the overconfidence bias, a psychological trap where you overestimate your knowledge, skills, or judgment, often with a swagger that feels so right until it's wrong. Welcome to part 7 of our Level 1 to 100 Psychology Traps journey, where we'll unravel why your brain inflates your confidence and how to keep it in check. Let's hit your life. You're pitching a project at work. Sure, it's a slam dunk because you've nailed similar ones before. You skim the prep, trusting your gut, only to fumble when a client asks a curveball question. Or maybe you're cooking a fancy dinner, thinking, how hard can it be? Then the souffle collapses, and the sauce burns. Overconfidence isn't just about trivia. It's the quiet voice that says you've got it all figured out, blinding you to gaps until reality humbles you. Your brain loves this trap because confidence feels good. It's like a warm spotlight, casting you as the hero of your own story. Emotion wired you this way. Self-assurance helped your ancestors take risks, like hunting or leading a tribe. Doubting every step could freeze you in place, so your mind leans toward optimism, especially when you've had a win or two. But in today's complex world, where expertise and nuance rule, that swagger can lead you off a cliff. The overconfidence bias isn't just about feeling smart. It's about mistaking a spark of knowledge for a bonfire. Picture yourself driving to a new city. You've glanced at the map, and your GPS is on, so you feel like a pro. I don't need to double check, you think, ignoring a nagging sense that the exit looked wrong. An hour later, you're lost, cursing as the GPS recalculates. This is overconfidence at play, convincing you your grasp is tighter than it is. It's not just you, it's the colleague who thinks they're a spreadsheet wizard until a formula fails, or the friend who bets big on a sure thing stock, only to lose their shirt. Psychologists have dissected this trap for years. In a 1998 study, researchers Ola Svensson found that 93% of American drivers rated themselves above average, a statistical impossibility. Your brain's prefrontal cortex, which handles self-assessment, often paints a rosier picture than reality, fueled by dopamine hits when you feel competent. The Dunning-Kruger effect, a cousin of this bias, shows that the less you know, the more confident you feel, because you don't grasp your own limits. Meanwhile, experts often doubt themselves, aware of how much they don't know. Ever notice how a newbie at the gym struts, while the pro quietly lifts? That's the bias in action. This trap thrives in ambiguity. When outcomes are uncertain, like predicting a game's score or a project's success, your brain fills the gaps with optimism. Social media amps this up. X posts celebrating hustle or genius hacks make you feel like you're one step from mastery, even if you've barely started. A few likes on your latest idea can inflate your sense of expertise until feedback pops the bubble. Overconfidence costs you. At work, it's the missed deadline because you underestimated a task's complexity, or the botched presentation because you winged it. In relationships, it's assuming you know your partner's needs without asking, then being blindsided by their frustration. It's also financial. Think of the crypto bro who knows the market, pouring savings into a coin that crashes. And it's personal. Overestimating your stamina might lead to burnout, like signing up for a marathon without training, only to limp away injured. The trap's worst sting is missed growth. If you're sure you've got it all down, you stop learning. Why study when you're already good enough? Why listen when you're the expert? This locks you in place, while the world moves on. It's like sailing with a map you drew yourself, confident until you hit the rocks. You can tame this trap, not it. Start by testing your confidence. Before a big move, like a pitch or a purchase, ask, what don't I know? What could go wrong? Write down 3 ways you might fail. This isn't pessimism, it's grounding your system to thinking to balance. You're at a casino, standing before a slot machine, coins jingling in your pocket. You've lost a few rounds, but this time feels different. You rub the machine's lever for luck, pick a lucky number, and pull with a flourish, certain you can influence the outcome. The reel spin, and nothing. Yet you try again, convinced your next move will crack the code. Sound familiar? You've stumbled into the illusion of control bias, a psychological trap where you overestimate your ability to influence events that are largely up to chance or beyond your power. Welcome to Part 8 of our Level 1 to 100 Psychology Traps journey, where we'll explore why your brain craves control in a chaotic world and how to let go of the reins when it counts. Let's bring it home. You're planning a picnic, checking the weather app obsessively, as if refreshing it will keep the clouds away. Or maybe you're in a meeting, tweaking every slide of your presentation, believing the perfect font will sway the client's decision. The illusion of control whispers that your actions, big or small, can bend reality to your will, even when luck, systems, or others hold the real cards. It's not just about casinos, it's about the moments you cling to rituals or plans, hoping to tame life's unpredictability. Your brain falls for this trap because control feels like safety. Uncertainty is unsettling, whether it's a slot machine spin or a job interview's outcome. So your mind crafts a story where you're the director, not a bystander. Evolution favored this. Believing you could outsmart a predator or charm a tribe gave your ancestors an edge, even if it was partly delusion. Today, when you face complex systems, like markets, weather, or other people's choices, this instinct misfires. The illusion of control isn't about arrogance. It's about your brain's desperate bid to make the world feel less random. Picture yourself stuck in traffic, gripping the wheel, switching lanes every minute because this one's gotta be faster. You honk, you weave, you curse the car ahead, as if your hustle will clear the jam. Deep down, you know it's a gridlock, not a race, but the urge to do something is overwhelming. This is the illusion at work, pushing you to act when waiting might be wiser. It's not just you, it's the investor who trades stocks daily, thinking they'll beat the market, or the parent who micromanages their kids' homework, certain it'll guarantee straight A's. Psychologists have studied this trap since the 1970s, when Ellen Langer coined the term. In one experiment, she let people choose their lottery ticket numbers instead of assigning them randomly. Those who picked their own numbers valued their tickets higher, as if their choice boosted their odds. The lottery was pure chance, but the act of choosing felt like control. Your brain does this too, inflating your sense of influence when you make a choice, follow a ritual, or take action, even if the outcome's out of your hands. Neurologically, this bias is sticky. Your prefrontal cortex, which plans and predicts, loves crafting narratives where you're in charge. When you act, like rubbing that slot machine lever, your brain releases dopamine, rewarding the feeling of agency. Meanwhile, the amygdala calms down, soothed by the illusion that you're not at the mercy of fate. This is why superstitions thrive. Wearing a lucky shirt or knocking on wood feels like it tips the scales, even if it's just your brain playing tricks. This trap sneaks into your life everywhere. At work, you might rewrite an email 10 times, thinking the perfect wording will seal the deal, when the client's decision hinges on budget, not your pros. In relationships, it's believing you can fix a partner's bad habits through endless talks, when their change depends on them. It's also financial. Think of the gambler who doubles their bet to turn things around, or the trader who holds a losing stock, certain their strategy will outsmart the market's chaos. The costs are real. The illusion of control wastes time and energy, like when you spend hours researching flights to hack the best price, only for fares to shift randomly. It can also blind you to better paths. Sticking to a failing plan, say, a marketing campaign that's bombing, because you've steered it so far, keeps you from pivoting to what works. In personal life, it's heavier. Obsessing over a child's college application, as if your edits control the admissions board, can strain your bond and miss what they really need: support, not strategy. The trap's worst bite is stress. Believing you control the uncontrollable, like a project's outcome or someone's feelings, sets you up for frustration when things don't bend. It's like rowing against the current, exhausting yourself when floating might get you there faster. Studies show that people who overestimate control report higher anxiety, especially in unpredictable settings like finance or health. You can dodge this trap. Start by spotting the illusion. When you're micromanaging or repeating a ritual, like refreshing that weather app, ask, can I actually control this, or is it out of my hands? Be honest. If the answer's no, you're caught. This question wakes your system to thinking, the logical side that sees through emotional tricks. Next, embrace what you can control. You can't stop the rain, but you can pack an umbrella. You can't force a client's yes, but you can polish your pitch. Focus on your actions, effort, preparation, attitude, not the outcome. Research shows that people who prioritize process goals, like studying daily, over outcome goals, like getting an A, feel less stress and often do better because they're not wrestling with chance. Let go with small experiments. If you're stuck tweaking a plan, try stepping back once, like sending an email without rereading it 10 times. See what happens. Often, the world doesn't crumble, and you build trust in letting go. Or use the serenity prayer approach. Accept what you can't change what you can, and learn to tell the difference. It's like loosening your grip on a kite string. The kite still flies, but your hands don't ache. Seek perspective. Ask someone uninvolved, like a friend or colleague, how much control they think you have. Their distance can reveal what your emotions hide. Or check X for real-world takes. Search stock trading myths to see how little individual trades sway markets. Studies show that external input reduces the illusion, like a mirror showing you're not the puppet master you thought. The illusion of control is a comforting lie, painting you as the captain of a ship that's often adrift. But you can navigate smarter. By spotting the trap, focusing on your true power, and letting go of the rest, you free yourself from chasing shadows. This isn't just about saving energy. It's about living lighter, trusting the world's chaos without needing to tame it. Next, we'll explore the hindsight bias, where you look back and think, I knew it all along, even when you didn't. Warping how you learn from the past. For now, pause. The next time you're gripping the wheel of a random outcome, loosen up. You're not the dealer in life's game. You're just playing the cards you've got. You're chatting with a friend about last year's big stock market dip. They shrug and say, oh, I knew it was coming. Those tech stocks were way overvalued. You nod, but then you remember. They were hyping those same stocks months before the crash, urging you to buy. Now, looking back, they're certain they saw it all along. Sound familiar? This is the hindsight bias, a psychological trap where you rewrite the past, believing you predicted or understood events better than you actually did. Welcome to Part 9 of our Level 1 to 100 Psychology Traps journey, where we'll uncover why your brain plays this trick on memory and how to keep your past in focus. Let's make it personal. You're reflecting on a failed job interview. Now, it seems obvious you weren't ready. The questions were tough, your answers shaky. I should have known, you think, kicking yourself. But at the time you felt confident, prepped, even excited. Or maybe you're laughing with friends about a trendy diet that flopped. I always knew it was a fad, you say, forgetting how you raved about it last summer. The hindsight bias doesn't just tweak your memories. It reshapes how you see yourself and your choices, often with a smug I told you so. That's more fiction than fact. Your brain leans into this trap because it loves a tidy story. Life is messy, full of surprises, mistakes, and blind spots. But your mind craves coherence. When something happens, like a market crash or a breakup, your brain stitches it into a narrative that feels inevitable. This isn't malice, it's efficiency. By making the past seem predictable, your prefrontal cortex helps you feel smarter, more in control, ready for what's next. Trouble is, it erases the uncertainty you actually felt, clouding what you can learn from experience. Picture yourself watching a sports game that your team lost. Now, months later, you tell a friend, "I knew we'd choke. Their defense was off all season." But rewind to game night. You were cheering, hopeful, maybe even betting on a win. The hindsight bias paints you as a prophet, not a fan caught in the moment. It's not just sports. It's every time you look back and think, of course that happened, whether it's a friend's divorce, a company's bankruptcy, or your own bad call. Psychologists have studied this since the 1970s, when Baruch Fishoff ran experiments showing how outcomes warp memory. He gave people historical scenarios, like a war's result, and asked them to estimate what they'd have predicted before knowing the outcome. Once they knew what happened, they overestimated their foresight. This knew-it-all-along effect is universal. Your brain blends what you know now with what you knew then, like a painter mixing colors until the original shade's gone. Neurologically, it's a memory glitch. Your hippocampus, which stores memories, doesn't keep a perfect record. It reconstructs the past each time you recall it. When new information, like a stock crash, comes in, it seeps into old memories, making them feel prescient. The amygdala adds emotional weight, tying past events to current feelings. So a failure now makes you think you sensed it then. Media fuels this. X posts or news stories frame events as obvious after the fact. Experts warned of collapse, ignoring how murky things were at the time. This trap distorts your life. In relationships, it's blaming yourself for not seeing a friend's betrayal when their signs were subtle or mixed. At work, it's your boss saying, "We should have known that campaign would flop," ignoring how promising it looked. It's also personal, thinking you knew a diet wouldn't work, so you feel dumber for trying. The hindsight bias doesn't just rewrite history, it saps your confidence, making you doubt your judgment or fear risks because last time was so obvious. It's costliest in learning. If you believe you predicted a failure, you might skip analyzing what really went wrong, missing lessons. Investors who think they knew a market dip often repeat risky bets, ignoring their actual blind spots. Or in a breakup, assuming you saw the end might keep you from spotting patterns, like poor communication, that you could fix next time. It's like reading a book's last page and thinking you wrote it. You miss the real story. You can outsmart this trap. Start by anchoring your past self. When reflecting, ask, what did I actually know or feel then? Dig up old texts, emails, or journal entries from before the outcome. If you're thinking, I knew that job wasn't for me, check your application email. Were you excited? This grounds you in the moment, not the myth. Studies show people who revisit primary sources, like notes or chats, are less swayed by hindsight. Track your predictions. Before a big event, a project launch, an election, a date, write down what you expect and why. Later, compare it to what happened. This prediction log keeps your memory honest. showing how uncertain you were. It's like a time capsule, preserving your real perspective. Research finds that people who document guesses, like investors noting stock picks, learn more from outcomes because they can't fudge their foresight. Embrace uncertainty. When you catch yourself saying, "I knew it," pause and admit, "Maybe I didn't." This isn't weakness, it's clarity. Ask, what was unpredictable then? In that interview, maybe the questions were niche, or the vibe was off, factors you couldn't foresee. Studies show that accepting ambiguity improves decision-making, as you focus on what you can control now, not what you should have known. Get outside eyes. Ask someone who was there, like a friend or coworker, what they remember about your stance. Their distance from your emotions can reveal your true mindset. Or search X for real-time posts from before the event, like Market Predictions 2024, to see how others felt. Diverse perspectives cut through the bias, like a breeze clearing fog. The hindsight bias is a storyteller, turning life's chaos into a script you think you wrote. But you can edit it. By anchoring your past, tracking predictions, and embracing the unknown, you keep your memories sharp and your lessons clear. This isn't just about better recall. It's about growing wiser, unclouded by a past that's too neat to be true. Next, we'll dive into the fundamental attribution error, where you blame people's actions on their character, not their situation, like judging a late coworker as irresponsible without knowing their car broke down. For now, linger. The next time you think, "I saw that coming," pause. Your memory's a canvas, and you get to paint it true. You're stuck in a coffee shop line, tapping your foot as the person ahead fumbles with their order. They're holding up everyone, switching from latte to cappuccino, then digging for change. What a flake, you think, rolling your eyes. But then you overhear them apologize. They're flustered because they just got bad news. Suddenly, they're not a flake. They're just having a rough day. This is the fundamental attribution error, a psychological trap where you blame someone's behavior on their character rather than their circumstances. Welcome to part 10 of our level 1 to 100 psychology traps journey, where we'll explore why your brain rushes to judge others' flaws and how to see the bigger picture. Let's bring it to your life. Your coworker misses a deadline, and you're quick to label them lazy, ignoring that they're juggling a sick kid and a broken laptop. Or a driver cuts you off, and you mutter, "Jerk," not knowing they're rushing to a hospital. The fundamental attribution error isn't just a snap judgment. It's a lens that distorts how you see people, coloring your relationships, work, and world with unfair assumptions. Your brain leans into this trap because it's a shortcut. People are complex, their actions shaped by a web of context, stress, environment, chance. Sorting through that takes effort, so your mind defaults to a simpler story. They did it because that's who they are. This instinct, called dispositional attribution, feels efficient, especially when you're busy or annoyed. Evolution favored it, quickly judging a stranger as trustworthy or threat could save your life. But today, when situations are often more influential than personality, this reflex paints a skewed portrait. Picture a friend who cancels plans last minute. You think, they're so unreliable, forgetting they've been swamped at work or dealing with family drama. You see their action as a character flaw, not a response to pressure. This error flips when you judge yourself. You're late because traffic was brutal, not because you're disorganized. This double standard, called the actor-observer bias, shows how quick you are to excuse your own slip-ups with context, but pin others on their nature. Psychologists have studied this since the 1960s. In a classic 1967 experiment by Edward Jones and Victor Harris, People read essays supporting or opposing a political stance, then guessed the writer's true beliefs. Even when told the writers were assigned their stance, participants assumed the essay reflected their real views. The behavior, the essay, was pinned on character, not the situation, the assignment. Your brain does this too, assuming a rude cashier's grumpy because that's who they are, not because they're on hour 9 of a shift. Neurologically, it's a wiring quirk. Your prefrontal cortex, which interprets social cues, prioritizes quick explanations to keep up with life's pace. The amygdala adds an emotional kick, making negative actions, like a snappy comment, feel personal, so you blame the person, not their context. Culture and media amplify this. X posts or news stories often frame people as heroes or villains based on single acts, ignoring the messy situations behind them. This trap reshapes your world. At work, it's assuming a quiet teammates, aloof instead of shy or stressed, which can sour collaboration. In relationships, it's labeling your partner selfish for forgetting a date, missing that they're burned out. It fuels conflict. Think of road rage, where you vilify a driver without knowing their story. It's also systemic. Judging a stranger's bad behavior, like someone snapping on a bus, without considering their struggles, poverty, exhaustion, can harden biases, like assuming certain groups are trouble based on one encounter. The error's costliest toll is empathy. By focusing on character, you miss chances to connect. That flake in the coffee line might have opened up if you'd smiled instead of scowled. That lazy coworker might have shown with a bit of support. The fundamental attribution error builds walls where bridges could stand, leaving you isolated in a world of snap judgments. You can sidestep this trap. Start by pausing to question. When you catch yourself labeling someone rude, careless, selfish, ask, what else could explain this? Consider their context. Are they stressed, distracted, or dealing with something you can't see? This shifts you from judgment to curiosity, waking your system to thinking to weigh possibilities. Try this situation first rule. Before assuming someone's behavior reflects their character, brainstorm 3 situational factors: work pressure, bad news, fatigue. Studies show that people who consider context, like jurors imagining a defendant's circumstances, make fairer calls. It's like zooming out on a photo. You see the background, not just the face. Flip the script on yourself. When you excuse your own mistakes, I was late because of traffic, extend that grace to others. Ask, if I did this, what situation would I blame? If you'd cite a bad day for your own grumpiness, assume the cashier might too. This empathy bridge narrows the actor-observer gap, softening your judgments. Seek their story. If you can, ask gently, rude day, or observe over time. That unreliable friend might be consistent when life's calmer. On X, search for real-world takes, like why people cancel plans, to see how situations, not character, often drive actions. Studies show that exposure to others' perspectives, like reading about diverse experiences, reduces the error by humanizing behavior. The fundamental attribution error is a storyteller casting people as caricatures instead of humans caught in life's currents. But you can rewrite the narrative. By pausing, considering context, and extending empathy, you see people clearer, flaws, struggles, and all. This isn't just about fairer judgments. It's about building bonds in a world that's messier than your brain wants to admit. Next, we'll explore the bandwagon effect, where you go along with the crowd's beliefs or actions, like buying a trendy gadget because everyone has it, even if it's not your style. For now, hold this. The next time you pin someone's actions on their character, pause. They're not just their behavior, they're a story, and you get to read beyond the cover.